While the shock of Russia's failure to reach its goals in Ukraine and the issues between it and Europe enter a great deadlock, mysterious explosions and fires began to occur in some parts of Russia in recent days. Gas and oil fields, Putin's most trusted trump cards, have been going through very hot and explosive days, one after the other in the last months. And under the suspicion of sabotage by the anti-war Russians, they are crashing like a nightmare on Putin's 4-month boost of economic process. Reports from many Russian cities, including Moscow, are almost like a harbinger of internal catastrophes that Russia will experience in the coming period. And this is starting to be Kremlin's nightmare. The explosions and fires in Russia's oil fields, factories, gas fields, and important military buildings remind us of Iran in the Middle East. Especially after the recent fires in Russia's oil and gas fields, the latest incident has dragged Europe into the great fear. Urangoskoye gas field located in the Yamal-Nenets region of Siberia was engulfed in flames at around 2:30 a.m. last night. The field operated by Gazprom is the largest in Russia and the most important gas field supplying gas primarily to Europe. This was recorded as the latest in a series of similar fires that raised suspicions of sabotage on key parts of Russian infrastructure. The possibility of a sabotage in these fires is actually due to the frequent occurrence of these fires recently. Tensions increased in Europe with the alleged involvement of sabotage in the fire that broke out in Gazprom oil field, which is seen as one of the energy veins of Europe. In April, 2 fires broke out at the Transnet Druzhba oil depot in Bryansk, Russia. When the succession of these fires was combined with the occupation of Ukraine, Russian experts began to dwell more onto the possibilities of sabotage by Ukraine. Ukraine has not yet responded to these allegations, but some experts have claimed that these fires may be due to the missile attacks by Ukraine. But missile attacks can be easily detected and leave no room for argument. For this reason, it is thought that the claims of Ukrainian missiles attack were made for propaganda purposes only. The most important doubt is the possibility of the fires being started by the Russians who oppose the war. The sabotage of the facilities by the anti-war Russians is one of the most emphasized issues. These are actually very basic reasons for the allegations to come to the fore. It is known that more than 12 military registration offices in Russia have been exposed to Molotov cocktail attacks since Russia started its attempt to invade Ukraine. The recent fire has also raised concerns about shortages in gas supply, as the field supplies gas to Europe primarily via the Yamal-Europe pipeline. With this fire, the energy supply system of Europe, which is already in crisis, may receive another big blow. And this risk is reflected in the increase in current energy prices. A similar fire broke out in the summer of last year, resulting in a significant drop in production, resulting in an increase in energy prices. The fire last year did not occur at a facility within the European supply system. However, since the fire took place in one of the most important facilities of the European supply system, its impact is thought to be much greater. While the energy crisis continues in Europe, Russia continues to deal with Western sanctions. For a long time, Putin has stated that these economic sanctions do not harm Russia. However, for the first time, a Russian official stated that Russia was badly affected by these sanctions, but said that Russia is still not without alternatives. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov spoke about the harsh effects on Russia in the face of Western sanctions. But in the end, he said the Russian economy is strong no matter what. And the day will come when they will start cooperating again with the rest of the world. At the same time, he said that these sanctions push Russia to more friendly countries. Defining these economic sanctions as an economic war, Peskov stated that the wound inflicted on Russia by this war could grow. These sanctions have forced Russia to seek new ways of interacting with its allies, new interaction mechanisms and financial agreements. New remedies emerged during this period, and assuming that the Russian economy returned to the old order, These alternative ways are thought to be providing extra contributions to the Russian economy. However, this could only be the imagination of the Russian authorities. After all, the Russian army and the Kremlin are likely to be prosecuted for thousands of war crimes. Depending on the severity of Ukraine's resistance, if Russia does not agree to an agreement on Ukraine's full independence and territorial integrity, it would be just a dream for them to expect economic cooperation from the whole world. And it would be foolish to hope for that. Europe and the USA should not be taken so lightly by Russia. If Russia has alternative methods, Europe has it too. With the EU's announcement that it will cut Russian energy purchases, it reported on Monday that half of the Russian oil transported by ship currently goes to Asia, particularly to China and India, which are not participating in sanctions against Moscow. Peskov said there is an axis moving away from Europe and the United States, and there are new centers of power in the East that include China, India, Indonesia, the Philippines, and many other countries, and Latin America. At the same time, he said that pushing Russia out of the international life is an absolute futile effort and that Russia could not be pulled out of the wheel. But such self-confidence could bring about the economic and military collapse of Russia. After all, nothing is indispensable, and Russia will understand this sooner or later. In addition to these difficulties, Russia has to face severe conditions even if it continues its small advance in Ukraine. There is an increasing unrest within the Russian army in the region where it suffered great losses. Russia, on the other hand, announced that it could increase its defense spending by 20% to compensate for those losses. Russian forces conducted offensive operation in Severodonetsk on 13 June, drove the Ukrainian forces away from the city center, but failed to fully capture the city. Ukrainian Defense Minister spokesman Alexander Matrusyanek noted that Russian forces did not completely clear Severodonetsk from Ukrainian resistance due to Russia's reluctance to commit infantry units and its over-reliance on artillery and offensive aviation for offensive operations. The Russian forces blew up the last remaining bridge in Severodonetsk and prevented the Ukrainian armed forces from coming to the region. The aim is to get the Ukrainian artillery out of the range by gaining superiority over the Ukrainian artillery in the region. The Russian army sent most of its combat power and resources to the Donbass and especially to the central part near Severodonetsk. And the Ukrainian armed forces took this opportunity to liberate some of the occupied areas in Kharkiv, Izum, and Kherson. It is known that the Ukrainian armed forces has recently pushed the Russian forces to the Russian border. This means that the advance of the Russian army is only on the lost lands in the past. In the statement made by the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine, it is understood that the recovery of Russian losses has reached the point where it's impossible. In total, over 35,500 Russian soldiers are reported dead and over 100,000 wounded. In addition to the troops' losses, it is reported that nearly 1,500 Russian tanks and nearly 220 Russian warplanes were destroyed in the region. First Deputy Chairman of the Military Industry Commission of Russia predicted that state defense expenditures will increase by 600 to 700 billion rubles, which may approach a 20% increase in Russia's defense budget. Russian government funds are allowing the country's defense industry base to gradually take action to meet the demands brought by the war in Ukraine, said. At the moment, Russia could not find a solution against the Western weapons used by the Ukrainian armed forces. It is said that one of the main issues that Russia forces on is to seek a remedy against shoulder-launched and low anti-tank missiles. If Russia cannot find a solution against the missiles, it will not be able to prevent the guerrilla tactics used by the Ukrainian armed forces in the city's defense and will continue to lose. Russian President Vladimir Putin wants the Ministry of Defense to do deep search on this issue and find a solution. Russia's defense technology may find a solution against Western weapons, but Putin's request for this immediately is just a false dream. It takes many years of research to take actions against the cutting-edge Western manpads, developed by nearly 20 years of combat experience and upgrades. It seems unlikely that Russia will be able to take measures against this